Yo, have you had your dose of pep today? No? Don't worry. You know I got you. Let's go. Yo, I said yo! Welcome to episode 13 of the Pep Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay, and the mission of this podcast is to cheer you on and coach you up. It's all about the elevation over here, not as the goal, but as the method of enjoying how the path changes us and makes us better. We're about growth in the process, embracing the process, finding the joy in the journey. And as we climb, guess what, Pep Squad? We're encouraging the people who are coming along with us and encouraging the people who need to get moving. That's what we do. We keep it peppy and we spread the same energy everywhere we go. Also, I want to thank everyone who listens weekly. I appreciate you all so much from the bottom of my heart. Keep on subscribing, keep supporting, and do me a huge favor. Okay? If you're listening to this episode of the podcast, I want you to stop right now. Go ahead and subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. You're like, how can I leave a review and a rating and I haven't even finished the podcast? Yo, it's going to be good. Okay, so just go ahead and drop the 5 stars wherever you're listening to this podcast. I appreciate your support so much. If every person who listened left a rating and a review, we'd have more than a few. And listen, your ratings and reviews are how this podcast gets recommended to people who need the pep in their everyday lives. So, if you could find the time, okay, just because you are such a kind and loving and supportive individual, I know you are. Can you just leave a rating and a review? I appreciate you. I love you. I love you so much. Pretty pleased with your choice of toppings on top. Okay, we good? All right, awesome. So I did something the other day. I created a t-shirt for the show, and it was nothing fancy, but while I was doing it, I was so excited about it. And it's just a t-shirt with some text on the front. And it's the words that I always use to open up the podcast. You know what I say. So it looked good when I created it on Canva, right? And when I did the mock-up, I thought that it looked pretty good. I thought there may have been some tweaks I could have made, but I was like, well, I'm just going to get this made and see what it looks like. So it came to me on Thursday of this week. And when I saw the box, y'all, I was stoked. I was so happy about it. And I was imagining ways of finding out how to get these to you all and just to spread the word about the podcast and our mission. However, when I got into the box and pulled the shirt out, I noticed that it had a whole lot of black space at the top of the shirt, and the words were more along the stomach portion, closer to the bottom. I'm going to put a picture of the shirt up on my Instagram at JBSpeaks, at _JBSpeaks on my social media so you can see it. Needless to say, #fail, which is funny because in this episode, we're talking about failure, but more specifically, the fear of failure. Today's episode is all about overcoming the fear of failure. We'll explore why it's such a prevalent thing, strategies to overcome it, and how to cultivate a growth mindset. And as someone whose mind tends to default to fear, I battle this every day, and I know that I'm not the only one. And so I thought it would be apt to have a discussion about this one. And the whole t-shirt issue just gave me the confirmation that I needed, that I was on the right track. So right after this break, we're going to dig in. But before we do, you know what I'm going to say, people. Jam to the music. That's right, because the music is fire. Jam to the music. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Episode 13 of the Pep Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay. And today we are talking about a disease, y'all, that seeks to rob us of the maximum life that we're meant to live. We're talking about the fear of failure. And it's a common experience for many people. Like according to a survey by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, nearly 60% of respondents to a survey that they conducted said that they experienced fear of failure in the workplace. And this fear can be paralyzing, preventing us from taking risks and pursuing our goals. And it's even more prevalent outside of work. Like that number goes up exponentially when people were surveyed and asked how many of them experienced fear of failure in everyday life. Y'all, the number was almost up to 80%. That's crazy. But it's important to remember that the fear of failure is a natural human response to uncertainty and the possibility of not meeting our own or others' expectations. Now, up until this week, I never even knew that there was a scientific term for the fear of failure. I should have known. Like we have a term for everything, but according to Talkspace, an online therapy service like BetterHelp, the formal term for the fear of failure is atychiphobia. And overall, it only really affects 2 to 5% of the world's population to an extreme degree, but even then, it's still identified as a spectrum of reaction. So self-limiting is common for people with atychiphobia, which means you may be prone to sabotaging your own efforts to succeed. An example of this would be never beginning an important project, which ensures that it fails, just so you don't actually fail after completing it. So you'd rather not even begin to complete or to attempt the project because you already know that it's going to fail, to avoid actually doing the project and failing in the process. Now, fear of failure can be paralyzing, but it's important to remember that it's, again, a natural human response to uncertainty and the possibility of not meeting our own or others' expectations. And it's easy to fall into a negative mindset when we experience setbacks or make mistakes, but research shows that we can learn to manage and even overcome this fear by developing a growth mindset. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. You can control your mind. Let me say that again for the people in the back, because I know y'all in the front, y'all heard this, but for the people in the back, let me say this again. You can control your mind. Now let's start here. What does failure actually mean? Like to you? Like I know what it means to me, but what does it mean to you? And it's different to every person. Like for me, failure is not achieving all of my potential, like it remaining potential. And like at the end of my life, I haven't done everything. I haven't reached every person. I haven't wrung every drop of potential out of my life. That's the thing that haunts me in the silence of my brain. That's the thing that makes me freeze, right? And it leads to me, it manifests through the fear that maybe I'm not actually as good as I think I am, which leads to me shrinking back from opportunity after opportunity, stepping up and leading in instances where I know that I should. And like I can become so afraid that I won't fulfill my potential that I don't even begin to perform. I hold myself back rather than embracing the development that failure can teach me. And if I'm being honest with you, my life might look insanely different had I learned to redefine failure in a healthy way early on. That's why I encourage my children to get out and try. Like even if they're afraid of the failure of something, don't let that fear stop you from trying. And I think, because we lack trying, because we lack even attempting, we really never know just where we could actually be in life because we don't try. Because our brain naturally defaults to if we try, we're going to fail. So let's just not even attempt it so that we don't bring that into an actual reality. Let's leave that failure in our imagination and feel the failure there, which is better than feeling the failure in reality, which is just bogus. It's so bogus. Now, there are about 3 different ways that people experience the fear of failure. There may be more, but I think it all boils down to these 3. So it's number 1, a reluctance to try new things or get involved in challenging projects. We can all relate to that one, right? Okay. Then there's self-sabotage. So for example, procrastination. We had an entire episode about this. Excessive anxiety or a failure to follow through with goals. That's self-sabotage. Low self-esteem or low self-confidence. Commonly using negative statements such as, I'll never be good enough to get that promotion, or I'm not smart enough to get on that team, or I'm not talented enough to sing with that group, or any number of those negative statements that we use on ourselves. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm going to give you a fourth one. Perfectionism. And we know perfectionism is a willingness to try only those things that we know that we'll finish perfectly and successfully. So, if you're a perfectionist, those things that you have any small doubt that you're not going to do well, you tend to avoid doing those things. Is that you? Is that you? Sometimes it's me. Just being honest. And so in each of these is the definition that failure is a bad thing. But what if we flipped the script on it? See, developing a growth mindset can help us to do that. A growth mindset is the belief that our abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. When we have a growth mindset, we view challenges and setbacks as opportunities for growth, rather than as indicators of our inherent worth or intelligence. So I don't attach, the meaning of something of who I am necessarily to something that I do or to how I perform on a test or something like that. In that fashion, I can never be a failure even if I fail at a task. You see what I'm saying? A failure is not a person. It's an outcome. And as long as you can begin to separate those two things, you can overcome your fear of failure. See, when we embrace a growth mindset, we can cultivate a sense of resilience that helps us bounce back from setbacks and persist in the face of challenges. I plan a full episode on this at some point, but for now, what I need you to understand is that unless you take control of your mind and choose to define what happens to you in ways that provide momentum to move you forward, instead of ways that hold you back, then you will forever be a victim. And a victim mindset will always keep you stuck like Chuck. I need you to listen to me, Pep Squad. And I need y'all to hear me clearly when I say this. I'm speaking to you from my heart. Fear is not your future. Failure is not who you are. It will not be the way that you define your life. Failure is a tool, and once we adopt that mindset, then you can use that failure as a resource to get better. It doesn't have to be the thing that shapes all of your life. When you redefine what failure is, you reshape everything, your mindset, your heart set. But it's up to you to choose to grow from the failure, to grow through the failure, and to define the failure into something that is positive for your life and not something that is negative. Now, when we come back, I'm going to hit you with some strategies that I think are going to help you begin the process of overcoming your fear of failure. We'll be right back. This is episode 13 of the Pep Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay. I'm so happy that you're here with us as we talk about the fear of failure. We'll be right back. Yo, it's Coach Jay here, and I am coming to you to tell you about my newest ebook, Soaring Confidence, 4 Steps to a Better You. Listen, if you find yourself lacking confidence in your professional or personal life, if you feel held back by fear and self-doubt, this book is for you. It's 32 pages of me recounting 4 steps, giving you 4 steps to help you begin to develop the kind of confidence that you need to soar through your obstacles, to soar above them, and to be successful however you choose success in your life. Listen, these strategies are practical. These are techniques that are proven to boost your confidence and help you to become the best version of yourself. Our 4-step approach is easy to follow, and it's relatable to anyone regardless of your background or your experience. Listen, I'm telling you, I've already heard back from customers who've gotten this ebook, and the feedback has been amazing, and I want you to have the same experience that they've had. Just click the link in the podcast show notes to get your copy today. Soaring Confidence, 4 Steps to a Better You, from your boy Coach Jay. I can't wait for you to begin your journey to a more confident you. Be blessed. See you later. Now back to the podcast. All right, y'all, we're back. Episode 13 of the Pep Talk podcast. Today we are talking about overcoming the fear of failure. And so there are a variety of strategies that we can use to overcome our fear of failure. One powerful strategy is to just rethink how we think about failure. And we talked about a little bit of this in the last segment. But rather than viewing failure as a reflection of our worth or intelligence, we can view it as an opportunity for growth and learning. There was a study done at the University of Hong Kong where individuals who viewed failure as an opportunity for growth persisted in the face of setbacks, and they ended up achieving their goals. So reframe it, all right? Rethink about how you view failure. It's not an end goal. It's not the end of who you are. Matter of fact, it's not who you are at all. Another effective strategy is to focus on small wins and progress rather than perfection. Setting achievable goals and celebrating the small wins, the successes along the way, can help build your confidence and efficacy, and it provides momentum towards the bigger goals. It's easy to get bogged down in the feelings of overwhelm or discouragement when we only focus on the end goal. But by breaking down our goals into more manageable steps, we can make progress and build confidence along the way. It's like they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Research by the University of California, Cal Berkeley, says that individuals who broke their goals down into manageable steps are more likely to achieve them. So maybe this helps somebody out there. So in addition to these, the prior two, it's important to practice self-compassion and forgiveness. Listen, Pep Squad, we're all human. I know AI is prevalent out there, but none of y'all have been taken over by AI, right? So we're all human, and we are bound to make mistakes. That's the beauty of the human experience, and it's part of the learning process. When we're kind to ourselves and treat ourselves with compassion, aka treating yourself as your own best friend, that's a podcast episode you can go back and listen to, we're better able to bounce back from setbacks and maintain a positive outlook. I've got more research from you. UT Austin found that individuals who practiced self-compassion were more likely to view setbacks as learning experiences, and they were also able to persist and subsist no matter what came their way. Finally, it's helpful to surround ourselves with positive and supportive people who can help us maintain a sense of optimism and encouragement. That's one of the reasons why I do this podcast. I want to be that person for you, okay? Coming to you on Monday mornings or whenever you listen to this podcast, whether it's on the Black with No Chaser app on Monday mornings at 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or whenever you're listening to the Pep Talk podcast throughout your week. When you come onto this podcast and I ask you if you've had your dose of pep today, I'm trying to be that person that is providing cheer and optimism and encouragement for you. I want you to leave this podcast believing that you can do it. What is it? Anything. I have people in my life who I know I can count on. Friends and brothers and sisters who I know have my back. And we all need people who believe in us, the people that we're able to weather the ups and downs of life with. Having social support can help to buffer the negative effects of stress and failed opportunities, and they can help us to maintain a positive outlook. Y'all, we are people. People who need people are the luckiest. Oh, let me stop. But the fact remains, we are people who are not independent. We are codependent on people just like us to help us get through life, y'all. Living life by yourself is a very lonely existence, and it will only take you so far. But when you decide to live your life with other people, fear of failure begins to shrink. Your low opinion of yourself begins to shrink. The power of your limiting beliefs begins to shrink because you have people to call you out on yourself. That's what we're trying to do. We want you to live your life in community and collaboration with other people. All right, so here's our quote of the day. It comes from the famous Winston Churchill, and it says, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Oof. I'm going to say it again. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Pep Squad, the courage lives inside of you. Fear is not your future. Failure is not fatal. Success is not final. It is a stepping stone into the greater works that are for you in this life. Take a stand today. Change your definition of failure and resolve to keep moving forward regardless. Y'all, that's it. I want to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Pep Talk Podcast. We hope you found our strategies and insights helpful. We want to help you overcome your fear of failure. And now it's your turn. We want to hear from you. We want you to share your own experiences with the fear of failure. What has it stopped you from accomplishing? Yeah? And what are your strategies for overcoming it? And I want you to share it on social media. And I'd like for you to hashtag the Pep Talk Podcast or tag me in your post @_JB Speaks. We want to hear from you because I believe that what you have to offer is just as valuable as what I've shared in this podcast. And also, don't forget to share this episode with your friends and family who could also benefit from these strategies. Listen, we are here supporting one another. We are here pepping one another up. We are here encouraging one another. I'm trying to do it for you. Y'all are doing it for me every time I hear from y'all. I love you all so much for believing in the mission of this podcast to cheer you on and to coach you up. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time on the Pep Talk Podcast. Remember, y'all, keep it love, keep it light, and keep it peppy. See you next week. Be blessed, y'all.